I am Cory Wallace. I am the Director of Technical Marketing at Cribl, and I will be your demo tour guide today for the three products we're going to look at. Shameless plug here as we start. I will be doing all of the demos from our cloud product. So you can go download. You can go sign up. You can't download it. You can go sign up for our cloud product at Cribl.io. Super easy. You just go to this little drop down here and you go to the one that says cloud, click learn more, and you click the free trial button. So when you go and do that and you sign up and you fill out a small, short, painless form, you will be given something like this. And this is our cloud interface. And we just had our new launch with 4.0 that came out last week. I believe it's all a blur. When you do a software launch, it's like years of your life that you feel like are shaved off all at once. But we did this release this last week, and we added this new product search that we'll talk about later. But Stream and Edge also got even better, which is pretty awesome because they were already great to begin with. So we're going to start with Stream. So this is Stream. This is our flagship product. Back in the day, it was called LogStream, but now it's just Stream because we do a lot more than play with log data. So this is the main interface you're greeted with. As of 4.0, we have made some UI enhancements. So if any of you have used Cribl in the past, 4.0 looks a little bit different in a good way. But when you sign in, you're greeted with this kind of summary screen that gives you our worker groups, a little snippet of monitoring here. It's Friday, and the recent actions, things that have been done here. And I'll kind of go into all of this stuff in greater detail here. But we're going to start with the worker groups and just a little bit about worker groups. I'm just using one today that's called default. It's not very cool, but it's just it's the default one, and it has one worker in it. But you can create multiple worker groups. A lot of people have them broken up by department. So you have like security, cloud, stuff like that. And workers are the way we scale within those worker groups. So the more data you have coming in, the more workers you can add to actually scale. Since I'm doing a demo today, one worker is plenty. So we'll jump in here. We sit in the middle between sources and destinations. So in the beginning were the sources, right? I spent 10 years at Splunk, so I got to be part of this kind of go rodeo thing of everybody capturing source data, and we became a destination for it. And that was great, right? When we were able to capture this endpoint information and start consolidating into a single kind of pane of glass, if you will. Everybody was happy. And then came this new problem that we face today, which is management of all of that data, which has been pretty cumbersome, and the expense of storing, all of that information in a platform can get very expensive. So I'm going to start with my favorite feature in Cribl. Well, leading up to search, it was my favorite feature, is Quick Connect. So Quick Connect is a quick, easy visual way to start using that multiple destination routing that we do. So you can see here, I'm actually using some data gens today for our examples. These are actually built into the product. So if you download, sorry, I'll stop saying download at some point. If you sign up for cloud, you can actually use these built-in data gens to play around with and learn. I'm going to use those today, but we have a plethora of sources. We have them broken into categories. These are some of the sources that can push information to us. The OG itself, syslog, TCP JSON. We have Splunk. We have Amazon. Healthy list of sources. We also can pull information from places as well. Some of those are Amazon S3, a very popular one. SQS as well, Azure Blob. And we have a few internal ones here, of which is the data gen I'll be using today. AppScope, which Nick mentioned. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And our internal metrics for Cribl, as well as Cribl to Cribl communication. So today I'm using two data gens. I have one that's some JSON data, that's some Lambda data from AWS, and Palo Alto. I'm sure you've heard of them, for some firewall stuff. So I already have one connection here that I pre-set up coming into the demo. So I have this Lambda data coming in, going to an S3 bucket. And this is what I kind of do personally for like my compliance copy, and a lot of customers do as well. So when you connect a source, you have three options. You have pass-through, pipeline, and pack. So pass-through is just everything. So if you want a compliance copy, you can send everything. Jackie talked about if you want all the Lucky Charms, marshmallows and all, and the cereal that nobody likes, and the marshmallows, you can do pass-through. So all your Lucky Charms are going to go to S3 at this point. And that's a great low-cost option for all of that data, especially if you need a compliance copy. Pipeline, we'll talk about in a moment, is our way to actually optimize the data that you send to a destination. And pack is actually a preset group of pipelines that we've created based on our experience with popular data sources. I'll show you one from Palo Alto here in a moment. Windows is another very popular pack, and you can edit those packs too. So maybe it gets you 90% there, and you do a little tweaking. For a lot of people, it's 100%, but the packs are time saving, so you're not making all those pipelines manually. So I've chosen pass through for S3. But I'm going to
Cory, real quick, can I jump in there and ask a question? When you say with the pipeline and optimizing it, are you doing any type of data deduplication? Wow, say that 3 times fast. To optimize the data that way and to correlate it between one event or multiple events?
Absolutely. We'll jump into the pipeline here in a second. I'll show you some of the functions within the pipeline, but endless capabilities in there. Deduplication is definitely one of those. And you can do it in multiple ways. All of the pipeline functions are kind of based on JavaScript, and you can get, and regex, you can get as crazy as you want to with it. A lot of people are definitely doing deduplication, and you can do that by event type, source type, etc. So you can get very granular with what you want to deduplicate. So you wouldn't necessarily need to do deduplicate. See, now you got me doing it. Deduplicate.
Can you say that a couple more times? Make me feel better.
I will. Well, you can also download some cloud. So you can have events not be deduped, in the same, from the same source, but just have specific ones deduped. Again, coming down to like source type, from something that's sending multiple sources or source types. You can say, well, I just want to dedupe DNS, something, or alerts. Actually, a better example. If you're getting an alert that's just something like it's not a warning, just some kind of info type log entry that just keeps coming in 100 times per second, you can definitely dedupe those, and you can throttle them as well. Real quick, let's talk about the multiple routing capabilities we have here. So with this JSON data, I have my compliance copy going to S3. Now I'm going to send it to Splunk for my analyst to look at. But in this case, I don't want to send everything to Splunk as I'm doing to S3, because it's slightly more expensive to send data there. So in this case, I'm going to choose a pipeline. And I've already created a pipeline here, so you guys don't have to see how bad I am at typing and talking at the same time. It's called trim JSON. So I'm going to select that one, and that will now be a parser just sitting in between that. And the way you can actually create these pipelines, one thing that I forgot to mention, sorry, before I did that, is we can also do a live capture of this data. So I've already grabbed a sample file that I used that I'm going to show you for the pipeline, how the pipeline works. But this is the live data actually coming in. I did a capture here. You can save it as a sample file. I already saved one for the sake of time, but that's what we're using here in this pipeline. So if I jump into this pipeline that I pre-made it last night for this demo. Pipelines are comprised of functions. So let me just show you a few of them. We have a ton of functions. We were talking about dedupe and things like that. I won't go through all these functions and bore you with all of that. but we can do a lot of things like we can drop things, we can eval, which is adding information to something. We can mask, we can parse, a ton of options here. And those are just the standard ones. So if you have spare time on your hands, you can go look through all these. They're also in our documentation. But in this case today, I'm actually using a parser. And I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, go away. And the reason I'm using a parser is with this JSON data, when I was analyzing it from my capture, I noticed a few things about these events. One, so we have these headers here that are duplicated. See, I got lucky and used a dedupe example in here by accident, John. So we have a duplicate of these headers called multi-value headers. And if you look, these multi-value headers are basically a duplicate of the headers. So a few other things I noticed in here. We have a couple of null values, and there's not really any reason I would want to ingest these null values. So we're going to filter these things out using a parser. So I created this parser. You have filtering capabilities, and in this case, I just set it to true, which is going to be a catch-all for everything. But in answering John's question, I mentioned that you can filter these out. You could also filter these, by various tags and by the type of file, the source type, etc. So in this case, I'm just doing a catch-all of true, but you can filter these out by event type, even if they're all coming from the same source. So in this case, we have two option modes here. We have extract, which I don't want to do. Reserialize is what I want to do here, which is actually going to look at this information. It'll take in the raw version of what's coming from the source and spit out the version that I want it to. And in this case, what I'm going to do is we have this section that's called fields to remove here. And all I need to do is just add a value for multi-value headers, which I've done here. So that's going to address these duplicate headers. And then I also did a fields filter expression here for those null values that we have, which is, again, just using some JavaScript. It's a value of anything of null. So take out everything that has a value of null. So one of my other favorite features within Cribl Stream is that you get a real-time view of what the changes look like. So this was our raw form. This is our changed form. And we use color coding to actually highlight these. So you can see that this has now got some orange on it. So that was showing me that something was changed. We have red here that actually means something was removed. So we removed 20 of those multi-value headers in the event, a couple of null values as well. So this is what it'll look like post-processing. This is what it looked like before. And we have this great pipeline charting tool here that will actually show you the difference between the in and out before the parser. So by parsing these events with this little pipeline I called trim JSON and filtering out the multi-value headers and the null events, we've reduced the event size by almost 50%, so 44.23 to be exact percent. So quite a difference, and no loss of pertinent information. We just trimmed some fat out, if you will. So super easy to use these pipeline functions. The great thing I think about this product, again, coming from this space, for the last decade, is we're not doing this in configuration files, throwing it out onto something, and then going and looking in the product to see if it did or didn't work. We actually can see this in real time right here, and we even get the pretty little chart to show us how effective that it was.
Hey, Cory, real quick question. So for with the parser, this is a manual aspect of it to verify that I'm removing or, kind of deduping the correct data. Is there an automated feature around it or an automated way to do it?
There is not an automated way to do it per se. There are the packs, that we have that kind of are pre-made pipelines that we've used. In fact, I can show you what one of those looks like right now is, sorry, let me get out of this screen here. With the Palo Alto information, for instance, if I wanted to send this to Splunk as well, we'll just do a little drag and drop. We'll choose a pack. in this Palo Alto pack here. Sorry, let's go to the right screen here. So if we choose this Palo Alto pack, you can see these are all pre-built parsing well, they're various things. They do various things, but these are all pre-built. Sorry, let me get on this right. Pipelines that we have created based on this source type that we know very well. So not necessarily automated, but definitely a shortcut to doing this manually.
So you have some default packs readily available to you to remove some of these or parse some of the information, but then there's also the manual aspect.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we keep these packs in our dispensary, so it's easy to download these. And again, you can edit these as well. So if they're not an exact match for your environment, you can go in and edit them and customize them. And with these, you can see the same applies with the packs. You can, let's see, I picked pan traffic here. We can choose to look at this data in that same sampled format. So in this case, you can see, again, with the pan traffic pipeline here, we have a parser that's actually reserializing similar to what I did before. And we're removing some fields that we just don't care about. And in this case, you can see they'll show up in red once again. And if I don't right click, you can see in this case, we, around a 25% reduction in events on that one. So packs are definitely a good way to get up and running a little bit faster on these. So in addition to doing parsing and some other things, I'll show you an example of a few other things that we do. I apologize. When it gets cold in Texas, we freak out and all of us have allergies. So sorry about that. We're not used to cold weather. So masking is another function, just a quick one to show you. We can actually mask sensitive data as well as another type of pipeline function. Let me grab a sample I have for some sensitive data here. And in this case, there's a social security number in here that is unmasked. So we're going to use the mask function in this case and some regex that Jackie loves to actually take this social, mask it, and encrypt it. So in this case, now we can see the social has changed and it's now masked. So this is a little bit different use case of where we're not necessarily doing dedupe or data reduction. We're actually masking sensitive information in this case.
So question,
Yes.
if you're masking something, does that mean it's reversible? So you can unmask it again?
Absolutely, it is. And often when I do this, again, I would take the same approach that I did earlier of sending a compliance copy to full fidelity copy to say S3, and then I would mask it as I send it to a platform.
Thank you. And second question, do you have any kind of indicator? I mean, you can probably build really complex functions, and that will impact on how much throughput you'll have probably. Or you can build something that is so complex that it will start to maybe lose information that is coming in. Is there any way of predicting how fast it can go?
We have added a feature called pipeline profiling in this version. And you can look at this here. So this was actually a new feature that just came out with 4.0. And you can actually see the processing time it will take. So I'm a simple marketing guy, just trying to make my way in the galaxy. So I do not write good regex and JavaScript. So it's a good way to actually see what the cost is in terms of computing and processing time for your function. And this was one of the most asked for features that we had that came out in 4.0. For that very reason, if you can go around and kind of play around with your pipeline function, and if it is very costly, you can edit it. Or in my case, I go find somebody smarter than me to help me edit it and write a better version of it. So.
Hey, and Jasper, thank you very much. We appreciate it. So this is one of the things. So I was one of the first customers of Cribl, and the ability, because it can be very complex to see the interactions of writing code in your data, especially with the almost infinite variability thanks to developers. And so this is an example that Cribl made so much easier in that we could see what we're doing in real time in the UI, but also because you can clone and route data at will, we would also do functional testing. So as data comes into Cribl, we would clone it and split the data, a copy out to our stage Splunk instance, for example, and be able to put our test pipeline on the test route while maintaining our existing functionality on our production route. And so once we were satisfied by going into stage that we had the right data, that we had covered our variability, that we had minimized our risk, then we had an easy promotion process. So not only do you get the basic functional testing of does this work in at the highest level, but also you can with the cloning and routing functionality, it makes it trivial to see does this work also in our stage instance, and it saves so much time. Previously to Cribl, we were investing 4 to 6 week development cycles to do this type of work. Once we started investing in Cribl, we actually changed our sprint cycles down to a week because that's a reduction in dev time.
And one thing Ed just reminded me of, I got so excited talking about pipelines that I forgot to mention, by default, we included dev null destination as well. So most of us internally, when we're creating pipelines, we actually send them to dev null first as we're testing them and optimizing them and getting them right before we start sending them to a live destination. Speaking of destinations too, just real quickly, again, I got excited and passed over this. Sorry about that. Adding destinations is super easy, as in adding sources. And you can see we have quite a few options here that are built into the product. Splunk, S3, options. Again, Azure Blob. The list goes on here. Elastic, Datadog, CrowdStrike, and a few others there as well. So now that I've actually made these changes, I've created a pipeline. I have some Palo Alto data here that's actually going using a pack to Splunk. I need to actually commit and deploy these. So another great feature within the product is our founders were all software developers. So they actually built Git operations into the product. So when you actually make changes, you can actually see everything that was done in the YAML file. We use YAML files on the back end behind the GUI. You can actually see and review the changes that were made. You can put in a commit message or use the default one. I'm going to use good practice here and use a real one. And we do a commit and deploy, and this will actually deploy this code out to our worker group. And you can also come in and see the global config, the history of the changes that were made. By name, I was bad there and used the default commit message, but you can see what was made. So you can go back and actually review and audit what was done in your system. So another great feature. And again, it's just our founders using their experience in this space to add some really cool features. Speaking of cool, yeah.
The one thing I want to mention, so with being able to separate commits from deployment, for those who work in the enterprise and the dreaded change management teams, this makes it really easy to build your code and have a separation of functions. So when you do need to deploy in your change windows, you can follow a process and make it very auditable to understand what happened when. And so it was a great thing in my area because that was a huge issue around change management.
Thanks, Ed. How long did you use Cribl as a customer?
Oh, well, so we were the second customer. So we started out in 2018. So we got to pioneer how to do this, and we learned a lot of lessons, but it changed everything we did.
Thank you. Yeah, Ed is a wealth of information to all of us, being that you're the second customer at Cribl. So, but we have a really nice monitoring section built into the product as well. Again, this is something that coming from this space myself, and I'm sure Ed can attest to this, that with other products in the past, it's been really hard to monitor the data transmission as it's happening. So again, our founders built this into the product for that very reason of, there's no guessing of whether information is being sent from a source to a destination or not. We can actually jump in and see it. So in this case, with Quick Connect, I had the JSON data that I had set up in the data gen, and you can see it's down here where it's moving. This is the raw version coming in. And I can do that same capture here. And if I expand out, I'll see those nasty multi-value headers and null values and stuff like that. So that's the raw inbound data. So we can verify with monitoring that it's coming in. And if my mouse will work, I can show you the destination. And then we have that S3 destination where we're sending full fidelity. And then we had Splunk where we were actually routing through a pipeline. So again, we can jump in and do a capture here. And we can see that those multi-value headers are gone. And we can also see the null values are gone. So great way to actually see what you've done in action in production. You can monitor all of this. So I can say that was a huge pain point for me coming from previous companies in the past, is we really didn't know if it was coming in the right way until it got there. And you were kind of poking around to make sure it did. So one of my other favorite features of the product is this monitoring section.
Going back to the data and you parsing it and you showing us the input and then the destination. At any point, if I find out that I want to remove the parse and I need that data back, is that data still available to me at any point, or is only going forward, will it be cleaner? Because I know on the destination side in the S3, it won't be there because I cleaned it up. But can I remove it and still kind of reparse the data back?
And this is the reason why being able to have a route out to your object storage. And so we started out with using on-prem S3 compatible storage and then cloud storage. But the idea is that you put the raw data as it comes in somewhere where you can manage it, have it, it's cheap. And that gives you those options that if you do make a mistake, you can use replay that's in Cribl. I'm not sure Cory is going to show you that. Use the replay functionality so you have a nice GUI where you go into the object store, find the data you want, you pull it back into Stream, and it goes into Splunk like it was the first time the data hit Splunk. And so you can have your cake and eat it too, in terms of be aggressive, manage your data how you want, but if you need to, you can pull the raw data and do it cheaply.
You guys are making me hungry with cake and Lucky Charms, just saying.
Jackie had to show the Lucky Charms.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the few times that I felt like I was able to do things and not have to make compromises. I had the ability, had that ability to cover ourselves. Because previously, I mean, it's just you're just dropping data and hoping for the best.
Exactly. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, but that would mean that you have to send the data or receive the data, process it, and also send it untouched to a secondary destination, right? So
exactly.
Basically, you processing one part of it and remove some things, but you also store the original in a different storage.
You're exactly right. So, for example, with me, my first route was to Object Store. The second was to Splunk. The third was to Exabeam, and it was the same event in different formats and in different types of data, going to all three destinations at the same time.
Okay, thanks.
And that's why I started with this, what I was calling a compliance copy to S3. This is pretty much kind of the default thing, is send everything via that pass through to S3 or some cheap object storage blob, whatever. And then use the pipeline capabilities to optimize the data that you're sending to your platforms that are, SIMs, Splunk, Elastic, et cetera, the ones that are charging you for ingestion with a licensing model. So
yeah, I want to emphasize we support Azure, support GCP, MinIO. So we want to give you options about where you want to park your data.
I think that's one of our mottos as a company, is choice and flexibility, right? So we want to give you the choice by giving you the option to route the data really anywhere you want to. And also the choice of what you want to send to the platform that is charging you for ingest with a licensing model. So I think I came from a healthcare background, so I was kind of having the compliance copy was drilled into me. We always had to have that full compliance copy. So with Cribl being able to send everything to some cheap object storage, in its original state, and to be able to replay it back at a point of time is really a great feature, I think, for anybody that needs to store, an untouched copy of their information.
Yeah,
And
visual replay is awesome. I mean, that's a real differentiator. You don't have to get your backup team on a bridge in order to restore data anymore.
so real quickly, I'm going to jump out of stream for the sake of time. Ed mentioned replay. I'm sorry, I'm going to jump into Edge real quick and talk about that. And we're going to look at search as well. But a little bit about Edge, keep things moving. So a lot of people ask, what is Edge? I've seen Stream, and you're doing all the processing in Stream. So what is this thing you call Edge? So Edge is our managed agent. So a lot of people, have some third-party agent they're using to collect data, or there's products like firewalls that can send syslog by default. But this is our version of a managed agent, and it has some great capabilities that you'll see later in search. I'm not going to spoil just yet, but there is now even more incentive to use our managed agent. But with ours versus the others, we actually give you some of that same flexibility and ease of management that you saw in Stream. So with Edge, we actually use what we call fleets. So we used groups in Stream. We use fleets in Edge, and a fleet is made up of nodes. So similar concept to the workers. Again, here in the graphic that I had before, you can see we have a fleet, and then these servers that are actually collecting data here, these would actually be the nodes that make up a fleet. So within the Edge management interface, we have that same kind of monitoring screen, and we also have a map view. So this is showing us actually a map view of all of the Edge nodes in our environment. This is a demo environment, so I don't have a ton of them in here, but it's actually showing us the events per second. And if you like list view versus map view, you can actually look at it in this view. And if you click on one of these, you'll get the detailed information on your Edge node. So it just kind of shows you CPU, memory, etc. And one of the great things that you can also look at, we're going to come back to this when we talk about search here in a little bit, but you can actually see the processes running on it and the files. So one of the great things about Edge is when you install it, it immediately goes out and finds all of the log files on the node that you install them on. And then you can actually come in and configure the product itself in that similar quick connect fashion to actually give you the log information you want. So you can grab all of it, or you can actually come in and you can actually filter out some of what's coming in as well. In this case, in this Edge environment, I'm actually just grabbing all of our internal system metrics that we'll use for the search demo. And I'm sending them to dev null that I mentioned earlier. So we're not sending them to a live destination. I just needed the internal metrics so I can show you the awesomeness of search here momentarily. But again, I think coming from this space in the past, and Ed can probably attest to this too, forwarder management or agent management has kind of been a pain point where you kind of have something that's gathering information. You don't have any kind of graphical monitoring view or management view of that agent that's grabbing things. You kind of throw it on there, and you know if it's working if you get the data, and if it's not working or you're not receiving data, you're like, oh crap, it's not working, and now I need to go figure out why. So one of the powerful things I think about our product Edge is that you have this rich graphical interface where you can manage it, and again, you can actually come in and define what you want to collect, and you're not actually going to hacking a configuration file, deploying that file, and then hoping that the changes worked correctly.
Yeah, Cory,
Yeah.
that was I'm particularly excited about Edge because I have too much gray hair for managing tens of thousands of log shippers. I mean, just the act of getting things upgraded is just, especially in large enterprises, is an enormous amount of work. And if anyone's had to run a reload on a Splunk deployment server, you can feel my pain. And so these are the kind of things that with Edge, just almost all that pain just goes away. It simplifies what you do. You're spending less time keeping things working and more time on analytics. That was a big thing for me. Was we were able to shift enormous, probably about a third of the time of the team from keeping things going, the BAU, the keeping the lights on, to actually getting business value work and analytics done. And I think this is Edge is something that's really going to help a lot of teams.
Absolutely. And I think, Ed, you can probably attest to this as well, that, with other forwarder agents from other companies, the way you configured it is they had a configuration file and you had to go kind of manually define the information that you wanted to collect from whatever node you were installing that agent on. And that could be kind of painful and cumbersome at times. You also had to define the output of where it would go. And in this case, we actually are doing all of that for you. So when you install Edge.
Yeah, Cory, can you show the metrics collection? That's another thing, just to be able to automate metrics collection and make it just ridiculously simple to get something that could otherwise be more complicated than it needs to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. And just click, click, click. And if you want to customize, you have that option to get everything a little bit customized. But it just your engineering time, and I think this is true for everyone. Your engineering time is your most constrained resource. It's easier to write a check for a tool than it is to get more people. And so being able to minimize what the grunt work, the BAU that your engineering team is doing, so they can spend more time on data is everything. This is just a great example. It makes something just so much easier.
Yeah, this is way less painful than using VI to edit a configuration file.
But even pushing it out, I mean, like deployment servers just drove it crazy, and just not having to deal with that. It's just and upgrades. Cory, can you show how easy an upgrade is?
Yes. Let me get out of the screen.
Favorite part of the whole thing.
So to install an Edge node, we make it super easy. On this add update Edge node, you can bootstrap. You just go copy this curl command to your clipboard, and you can actually just SSH to the machine, the node that you want to install it on. You do that, it'll automatically report in. And then for upgrades, this is what Ed was referring to, this is how you actually upgrade all of your Edge nodes, which again is pretty easy. You just copy this script. And
there's a UI where you can click a button and upgrade your entire fleet. And so it makes everything so much easier. Anyone who's had to deal with agent health, I mean, security teams are usually very focused on this. You typically find out when your agent stopped working because something's been breached, compromised, or broke, and then you find out, oh crap, we didn't have logging because the agent stopped working. But having this centralized monitoring gives you the ability to know, is everything working, and do it very, very easily with less effort.